Hey, what's up? Something I've been highly suggesting to my clients for a while now is to bring cold exposure into the routines in one way or another for any one of the many reasons for doing so. Because there's many different benefits and tons of info online that you can research for yourself. So, with that being the case, I'll just stick to why I use it personally, and then my perspective on the practice and my practice really. But if you need references, just look at what Wim Hof has been able to accomplish in the ways of controlling what was thought to be uncontrollable systems in the body. It's fascinating. So you can look him up, WIMHOF, maybe two Fs. So, anyways, a quick cold shower is a good place to start for cold exposure. But if you're in Florida, the groundwater is like, 70 degrees, so it's not much of a challenge. But for other places, probably so. For the most practical and cost-effective approach for daily use, the easiest way to do that is with the deep freezer, what I got here. And for me, being in the middle of summer, it doesn't need to be turned on for more than an hour or two a day, just to keep the temperature in the low 30s. And the ice you see is ice that built up around the walls that it broke away, and then I broke it up real quick. So I just jumped in on this one. No prior breath work or exercise, and I never jump in like right after exercise. As tempting as that can be, that's because I want the swelling of the muscles to kind of run its course to help with building strength. I don't want to offset that by freezing it out immediately. The day after, for sure, though. But I'm less in a state of muscle development and more in like a long-term state of recovery and rehabilitation as far as my goals are concerned. I'm trying to build a stable foundation before I load myself up with anything else. But, and if I have tightness around like my heart, my chest, and my throat, which I do, and I was to like do a bunch of push-ups or something, I'd just be building up a big wall around all that anxiety and just end up burying it under all that muscle growth. That's been my experience anyway. So I'm recovering and rehabilitating myself more than anything else, and any exercise I do comes with really the priority of play being first, and then the exercise comes in as an added benefit, if that makes sense. It feels more natural that way, and it's more therapeutic for me that way. But anyways, onto the ice. Yeah, a big benefit with the ice is it's very hard for your consciousness to escape your body, or for them to remain separate, which they are with a lot of people. And since some people spend most of their time fairly disassociated from their bodies due to trauma, suppressed emotion, or like any unlimited amount of reasons for from being human in a modern world that you can think of. But because of that, the ice tends to be kind of like an ass kicker when jumping in for the first time for a lot of people. It's like just it gets you. And it's because it forces you immediately into the moment in your body. Like you can't avoid yourself, and there's no escape. Well, not if you're committed to staying in for any extended amount of time. Otherwise, you just jump out. And but there's still benefits to just jumping in and out too. But so it stirs people up immediately, and that's where if you're doing it, you'll want to bring in some good breath work. And if you don't know any, it's fine. If you're planning on staying in and saving your ego, you'll make it up on the spot. I promise you that. But because that's the typical way it's taught, you want to control and master yourself in the ice. So extended exhales helps out a lot with that, which can roll over into your daily life, because mastering yourself and learning to calm yourself in an extreme environment makes stress management for daily activities just so much easier, way easier. So controlling yourself like via the breath, this is typically advised right off the bat, which is good, and this is ultimately what you want to achieve. But here's kind of something I'm thinking about. And here's what I'd say you do it first, especially if you're full of shit like the rest of us and you're new to ice. You get in, and however it immediately makes you feel, minus the fight or flight response that's telling you to get the fuck out of there, just feel that way and stay in the ice. So just feel whatever you start feeling immediately upon being in the ice. If it makes you want to scream, scream. If it makes you want to cry, just weep, and so on. And what you'll most likely find, probably not on the first exposure, but ultimately you'll find is that you can relax into the ice and soften your body, and your breath just starts to level out just as your mind completely empties out. That's ideal, from what I'm experiencing anyway. And after a few exposures, people find themselves jumping in, taking some deep cleansing breaths, kind of like I did, and then as the body just finally the body and mind kind of synchronize, and then you just kind of let go, and then boom, you're in the ice. And if you're a dude, your balls are in your stomach, 100%. Shit, man, I looked uncircumcised when I got out of this one, for sure. But, maybe it won't be that easy every time. Some days are harder than others, just like with anything else. But I'd say just do it anyway. And it's also a powerful tool that forces you to catch your damn breath if you're like struggling to do that naturally for whatever reason. And not very many things can do that quickly. So it's very helpful in that way too. And there's a lot of added benefits, and I'm in it for that as well, especially the cognitive ones. But for me, there's like a depth of meditation that I can achieve in the ice that I can't seem to achieve anywhere else. And that's huge for me. And, this right here, this was a longer one than I'll typically do once a week. Maybe I'll do it like once a week. But some days it's just a couple minutes does me just fine. I can get there just fine. But, if you're going for it, I'd say, at least try for 30 seconds your first time, or commit to a minute. That'd be good. Or just get in, get out, and do whatever the hell you got to do, be safe about it. But there's some downsides that I found. No, maybe they're not downsides. I don't know. You be the judge. But, you can, or like I can be completely exhausted and like super achy at the end of the day. Sometimes that happens. And I know that within 90 seconds to 2 minutes with being in the ice, I can be completely pain-free and extremely invigorated, body and mind, for like 2 to 3 hours at least. So that's addicting, and it's powerful. So therefore it can be abused just like anything else, So, if you, say you're in pain and you're forcing yourself in there every day because of that chronic pain and staying in a tight ball and, just roughing it out while you're in there, you'll get great temporary relief, I'm sure, which is great, which is a great natural alternative to everything else, don't get me wrong. But I think what can happen is you start to freeze and tighten up. You're already in a tight and frozen body, so be mindful of that. And, but a lot of that can be offset with what you do once you get out of the ice. You can do like what the Wim Hof does with his horse stance and then the Qigong to warm yourself back up, which is awesome, especially if you vocalize your exhales like he teaches. That's awesome. And then once you're out, and if you don't want to do that, what I find is if you're in there long enough, you'll start to shiver within a few minutes of being out. Not right away, but after a few minutes, you'll start to shiver, your body will start to warm back up. And if you're not going to do the Wim Hof Qigong thing, then I would just allow yourself to stand and shiver or lay down and shiver, because your body will generate those shivers from the places where the most stuck energy is, where you hold the most tension in your body. That's why the jaw is typically the first place to start shivering, because we hold so much tension there. And that's obvious. And geez, just the dental data alone showing over 90% of people being teeth grinders at night, So just let the shivers go. Outside of that, you'll typically find the shivering coming from your core, where there's a lot of tension being held. And, the hands, wrists, all those places, where we hold all sorts of tension. And you can express that stuck energy just by allowing the shiver to run wild in whatever way feels right. And or in whatever way is like the most chaotic. Honestly, that's probably the best too. Once you're warm, you should see like a noticeable decrease in overall tension in your body, and ideally extreme relaxation. You can really drop into it. But you can do alternate too. If you got a sauna, that'd be great. You can jump into a hot shower. You can go back and forth. That's awesome too. It's like a whole body vascular flush. Lots of benefits to that as well. But that's just a couple examples on how you can use your thawing out process to your advantage therapeutically in the most healing way to you personally as possible. But you can also, use like the energy and the motivation from the like desperate need to get warm quickly by doing some exercise or going for a run or jumping around like a kid who's cold. You know, there's so many ways to go about that. I would just make it work for you. And that's about all I got to say about that. But I'll try and tag a few resources. Sean Miller, if you're local, Sean Miller's got an XPT class coming up if you want to. I'll try to tag that in the comments or something, or at least tag him. He's got an XPT class coming up, so you can at least try it before committing to a deep freezer that may just, you know, be another thing you own that you never use because you're not committed or motivated enough. You know, maybe that's the case, but you can at least try it and get into it. And those classes have so much more to offer than that. They're so much fun. XPT classes were developed by Laird Hamilton and his wife, Gabby Reese. Awesome people, great class, great wisdom in there, and a great route for trainers to train and kind of level up the stuff that they're teaching and doing. You know, but ultimately every trainer is going to bring their own expertise and energy into it, so it's always a good time. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Peace.